I'm Mariana Cordier. Welcome to Montgomery Week in Review. Equal pay for equal work has been a slogan for many, many years. The challenge of this slogan still needs to be met even with laws in place. Jane DeWinter, who comments for this show, has some thoughts. From consumer advice to investigating scams in the county, the Office of Consumer Protection in Montgomery County allows a resident to make a complaint and often get a resolution. Tracy Rezvani, an administrator for the office, has some details on the kind of cases she sees. The state's attorney's office has several programs in place to prevent crime, especially for the vulnerable populations in our community. Two examples are truancy prevention and the mental health courts. Phil Andrews from the office will explain. Some of the most interesting articles in the Beacon concern health and well-being. The March issue has its share of these stories. Stuart Rosenthal, the editor and publisher of the newspaper, will tell us about them. Jane DeWinter, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
So we've heard a lot about equal pay and that it's been in existence, the law since 1965. What's going on now in 2019 with equal pay?
Well, it's not equal. But there have been, in this week, there have been actually a number of steps that will affect us locally as well as nationally that may make a difference. These are looking specifically at gender disparities, meaning, different pay rates for the same job or same type of activity for men versus women. But they'll also, by being in place, they'll also address disparities based on racial or ethnic.
So what, if anything, is the county doing specifically with regard to the issue?
Right. Well, it's been a lot of these disparities actually start out at the beginning of a person's career. Like, you're hired at a lower salary, and then that just sort of follows you, especially if you're in a place where, okay, even if everybody gets the same percentage raise, if you're making less, you're still making less after you get 5% more. So the county council has introduced a bill, this was led by Evan Glass, new council member, to eliminate or to prohibit the county government from asking for salary history when they're hiring.
Oh, that's interesting. I did not know that they had asked for that in the past.
Yes, it was when you were hired by the county, you had to provide even pay stubs from your prior job to demonstrate what salary you were making before. So you can see is that, if you were lower for, before, it was going to carry on.
So this doesn't affect private businesses, it only affects the county government when it's hiring?
This affects county government, yes.
Because there's some states, I think, that do it for all businesses, if I'm not mistaken.
Forbidding salary
Right,
history.
right.
Yes, that may be I don't know whether that's the case here in Maryland. Usually, though, laws that the states pass for private businesses don't usually apply to the government.
Right.
So in this case, the government is being the leader by going first, potentially.
Right, the leader by going first, yes. And it also requires some reporting by the county executive. Like, for example, a report is going to be required every 2 years showing, county wage levels or, wage spans for different job categories broken down by gender and race and ethnicity. Another action that took place this week was an article came out in the Journal of the American Medical Association discussing the size of awards, like research awards in the health field for first-time
Applicants?
First-time principal investigators, right? So that was catching academics, when they were applying for their very first research grant, and it found that systematically women's awards were significantly lower than men. And it's not just building a case for the size of the award, but that also has a big impact in a woman's ability to publish articles and to
It goes to your ability to flourish as a professional in that capacity.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was interesting because they have a big breakdown by, university by university, like the top 10 and Ivy Leagues and things, and the vast majority of them have a significant disparity.
And what else has been, have you heard of anything going on the federal level?
Yes, it was just yesterday, I believe, the court threw out an appeal that had been made by the Trump administration of a 2016 Obama, I don't know if it was a regulation or action. You might know more than me, Phil, what it was.
Probably a regulation.
Regulation, yeah. That was requiring private corporations that had more than 100 employees to annually release a salary breakdown, or salaries broken down by race and gender.
Right, to make sure that the companies were not favoring either.
Right, to just sort of, I mean, basically to give information. I
Right.
mean, one of the things that people have found is that a lot of these disparities continue because people don't know what other people around them are making.
Or
Data
there's
is
no
sunshine.
accountability either.
Right.
Right,
Data is sunshine.
right.
At least in the county, everyone knows what everyone else's salary is because it's public. But
Right, that's right.
in the private arena, data will be sunshine.
Right.
They don't. Yeah, I would think the county legislation might have a significant impact along the way on people who work in the nonprofit field, which often are low salaries and probably mainly women. But if they apply for a government position, I would imagine that could have an effect on them because they tend to be starting on the low end.
Exactly, because if you're in the nonprofit world, you know, unless you're heading up a national nonprofit or something, you're largely making peanuts. I mean, it's the whole thing that they used to say about teachers, like, oh, well, you're in it because you love it and you believe in it, but, you know, you still need to pay your mortgage.
Right, so with about 20 seconds left, is there anything people can do to become more active about this issue? And
Right, well, the local law that, or, you know, action that has gone out, there's going to be a public hearing on it on March 26th. So you can sign up, go to the county council website or whatever to sign up to testify, or you can just even go and hear what everybody said. So far, all 9 council members are co-sponsors, so.
awesome. All right, so people, don't forget, go to the to the meeting. All right, thank you so much, Jane. I hope you come back. So, consumer protection
Consumer
is
protection.
in the house.
Yes. So the
Such
Office of
important.
Consumer Protection has been a county agency for over 40 years, and we're the primary law enforcement agency for the county's consumer protection laws. And so we tend to primarily handle consumer merchant disputes. So by and large, if you've paid money, you're not happy with the result of the good or service, with limited exceptions, we can investigate and try to help resolve the dispute. If there's been a violation of the law, we can file criminal charges.
And that's awesome because people don't need to hire a lawyer or anything else. They can just go directly to you guys and file the
Right.
complaint, and you all take it from there.
Right, and you know, we do our best to be able to try and resolve the case if we can. If it's something that's outside of our literal jurisdiction, so we don't handle any malpractice disputes, obviously, no landlord-tenant, no insurance. But if it's something that we can try and help, we'll do our best to do so. But if it turns out it has to be something that needs to be resolved with a court, we do have free mediation, and so we offer that with a free formal mediator who can then sit and resolve the dispute. We offer the mediation to our small business communities if they also have disputes against other businesses.
So
That
what
way,
are the big issues that you see come through the office, like the most popular?
well, other than scams, which we could spend an hour speaking of, I think primarily our complaints tend to fall into the top 3 categories: our home improvement, auto related, whether it's repair or sales, or general retail complaints. And going into spring, we really expect an uptick of home improvement complaints as more and more people are hiring folks to do work around the house. I know we work with the state's attorney's office quite a bit on what we call woodchucks, which are folks who come in to do yard work, and while up in your tree, notice that, oh, you know, you need a new roof, you need new gutters, they take a deposit, they never come back. And so this has been an ongoing criminal work that we do, not only with the state's attorney's office, but we also work with the Montgomery County Police, Prince William County Police, Fairfax County, DC, and Howard County, because the woodchucks, for some reason, primarily come from Culpeper County. So it's a multi-jurisdictional task force to try to help that.
What are the 2 or 3 questions that a resident should ask someone who comes to their door and says, I would like to, you look like you need a new roof, I can give you a good deal?
Well, you should always make sure that you're getting an estimate. The estimate has a home improvement license number on it. It has the name of the company and a phone number. You won't believe how many times we get complaints where there's no license number, there's no business name, there's no phone number. It just says invoice. Then you want to get 3 different bids and you want to compare it, and you want to make sure that if there's a license number on the estimate, that you go online and you verify that it actually belongs to the person who was there. Oftentimes we see people borrowing another person's credentials and essentially trying to pass off their licensing and their credentials as their own.
It's easy to do online. You just type in the.
If you go to the Maryland Home Improvement Commission website, there's a license search right there. If you go to DLLR, you can search electricians and home improvement contractors. If the industry needs a license, DLLR will have that searchable. Department of Permitting Services for the county allows you to search for electricians, and a peddler's license, those who go door to door, have to go through DPS. Our office licenses new home builders, auto repair shops, secondhand personal property dealers, like if you're going to a consignment shop or a pawn shop of that kind. If you're getting anything repaired in your home, like your refrigerator or your television, any kind of consumer electronics, they should be licensed or registered by our office. The county has a business portal that really goes into depth for what kind of licensing is needed. So if you have any questions about that, that's where you go.
I'm curious, so you were saying that you handle disputes that people might have with retail establishments. Is there any sense of, are these usually, like small, like local retail as opposed to like chains, or is it both?
We have them all. We have local retailers, we have national retailers, we've had international retailers. So it requires us to be flexible and creative in how to reach folks. So for example, if we get a complaint against Airbnb, we're really going to have to use our Facebook contact messenger service to be able to reach someone there, because trying to find a human being to actually be able to communicate sometimes with these international companies are really difficult.
It's tough, yeah.
So we have to get very creative in how we try to reach out to the merchant so that we can try to resolve the dispute.
So with a little bit of time that we have left, besides those top 3, what other areas can the viewers know that Consumer Protection investigates?
Well, one of the things that I think I would like to warn everyone about is, as we go into the spring months, other than the woodchucks, be prepared for energy scams to start. I mean, folks already know the phone rings, someone claims they're Pepco, the caller ID is spoofed, it says they're calling from Pepco and they want to offer you a better rate, or conversely, they say, we're about to, you haven't made your money payments in time, we're about to shut you off. These scams are coming to your door as soon as the weather is warm enough.
So keep an eye out.
Keep an eye out.
All right. Thank you so much. I hope you'll come back. So we have to take a break. Be right back.
Someone at my friend's school has this thing called autism. My friend's brother's son has autism. My neighbor's son has autism. My son has autism.
Autism is getting closer to home. Today, 1 in 88 children is diagnosed with autism. That's a 1,000% increase in the last 40 years. Learn more at autismspeaks.org/signs.
Brush, brushy, brush, brushy, brush, brush your teeth. Every day and every night. Now it's your parents' turn. Here's what you gotta do.
That wasn't your tip off.
Brush your teeth. Great job, you're almost done. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, that's it. Help your teeth stay healthy. Brushy brush with a grown-up every day.
Oh yes, right.
Yep. Oh yeah. Yep. Yeah.
On a credit card. Wired into something.
Turning a 20-foot wall into a canvas takes vision. So will getting into college. I've got what it takes. So do you.
Mom, can I have $1? I think my purse is upstairs on the bed. It's not here. Check the dining room. No. The upstairs closet.
Moms everywhere are finding ways to keep kids active and healthy. Get ideas, get involved, get going at letsmove.gov.
And we're back. Phil Andrews, thank you for coming back.
Thanks
to
for
the
having me,
show.
Mariana.
Especially because we kind of touched on last time we spoke about the mental health court. So tell me what's going on with these programs that you've got at the State's Attorney's Office.
Sure. Well, the goal of State's Attorney John McCarthy isn't just to prosecute crime, but to prevent it and intervene effectively whenever possible to prevent it from happening again. So the mental health court is a program that exists in our district and circuit courts. And what it does is divert people who commit minor crimes or low-level crimes that is at least likely due to their mental illness into treatment and away from jail.
It's amazing sometimes where just a little bit of intervention and help, getting someone to be back on their meds and compliant and such, can make a world of difference.
And the relationship between the judge and the participant has been found to be a crucial part of the success of mental health courts and drug courts as well. Problem-solving courts that work at getting to the bottom of the issue that's causing the unacceptable behavior. And the advantage to the public of mental health courts is that it reduces the recidivism rate.
Right.
So that there's less crime because you're dealing with the underlying cause. So we have been in existence now with the mental health courts about 2 years. We've had about 25 people graduate so far. We've got another graduation coming up next month.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And we've only had one individual recidivate at this point, so that's a much lower rate than is normal for that population.
Right. It's a tough issue, and it's tough for the family. It's tough for the individual. So it's fantastic that you guys have this.
And it's been strongly supported by the county, which has been crucial because the major funding that's needed for this are the therapists, the social workers who are with the County Health and Human Services Office, and that is where you have most of the additional labor required for these courts.
Is there any kind of sort of screening or whatever for like the types of crimes that have been committed?
Yes. Yeah, so the State's Attorney's Office vets all of the, we're part of the mental health court team. So our attorneys that work with the mental health court, Kathy Knight is the lead attorney in the district court. She's head of our district court attorney section. And so all of the proposed candidates are vetted in terms of what their criminal history is, what they're charged with, and whether the attorneys feel they are safe to be in the program. So that's all very carefully considered.
That's awesome.
Because we want this to be a successful program for the participants and for the community.
So the lawyers for the individuals have to propose that what's at the core of the issue is mental health and not just criminal activity.
Well, they will say that, but each person who's a candidate is evaluated by people who have a background in mental health to determine if they're appropriate and do they have a diagnosed mental health illness. Most of the folks in the program have a type 1 diagnosis like bipolar or major depression or schizophrenia. So those are the most common diagnoses.
And they escape jail?
That we have, though, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I want to make sure that we touch on your truancy program.
Yeah, right. So yes, they can have their criminal charges dropped if they successfully complete the program.
Awesome.
And that could be helpful for jobs and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
The truancy prevention program was started by Mr. McCarthy back in 2010 with as a partnership with MCPS at 2 MCPS middle schools. We're now at 19, which is about half of the schools.
So I know parents are hearing this and they're cringing. Truancy.
Yeah, so it's a serious issue, and the goal here is to get students back on track while they're most persuadable in middle school so they succeed. Because the jails are full of dropouts, high school dropouts, and other people who did not do well in school. So we know that's a key correlation, at least, between that outcome. And risky behaviors, of course, go up for the students themselves if they're out of school, whether it's getting in trouble with drugs or crimes.
What does the program itself look like?
We are in the schools. We meet with the students individually over a 10-week period. The schools select the students. And we meet with the counselor, with the pupil personnel worker, and our staff to solve the problem, basically, figure out what's going on, talk to the student, and it's a very positive-based program. They're not in trouble, and the parents agree for the student to participate. They also meet with a mentor beforehand, and that's less focused on the truancy and more on what's on your mind kind of thing, to see if they can get a better handle on what's causing the truancy. The success rate's been very good. More than half the students improved their attendance very substantially by more than 50% during the program. And we've seen benefits.
What's the reason why
lasting.
students are truant so much? That's
Many,
Quickly, you got
very
2
many.
seconds.
Top
Could be
3,
bullying,
too.
could be anxiety, could be problems at the home.
All right, and with that, we appreciate you coming. Hope you'll come back and tell us more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Stuart Rosenthal, the Beacon.
Hello.
I can't live without it.
Oh, that's good. That's good to me either, actually, that you mentioned it. So we have an interesting cover story this time on jazz workshops taking place actually in Vienna, Virginia. But there are a lot of,
Jazz in Virginia? Do they come
That's
to
a good-
Maryland, or do I have to go all the way
I'm
over
afraid
there?
a teacher is in Virginia,
Oh,
but it's not, you know,
shoot.
there are people from all over who go to this. The idea is if you're an amateur musician or you play one of those kinds of instruments that would be in a jazz band, and you always thought, well, how am I going to learn how to do that? And this is a great way to do it. This guy teaches 2-hour sessions. He brings people together of the same approximate abilities, and he teaches them how to perform as a jazz group, and then gives them opportunities to actually perform at restaurants and things.
Oh,
out
that's
on-
cool.
Yeah, it's
is
really
it,
nice.
Is it free, or do you have
No,
to
you pay by it's $65 for a 2-hour session, is my understanding.
Oh, that's reasonable.
But yeah, quite. And the people who go said, you know, it's all ages, you know, so it's very nice. A health story, which you had asked me about
Yes,
earlier. but-
definitely.
Well,
We want to know about our health.
well, let me start with
Although I have
Medicare.
to beat you to something.
Yes.
Everything is eat right, get enough sleep, and
Mhm.
exercise.
Yeah.
So I get this refrain over
All right.
and over and over again.
So you want me to say why that might
Why?
be? So I learned something from this article I had not been aware of myself. At the cellular level, the energy in our bodies is produced by mitochondria. And what I did not know is as we age, we have fewer and fewer mitochondria. So that really explains a lot about how as we get older, we sleep more, we get more lethargic, whatever. So what do you need to do in order to make the maximum of what you've got? Okay, so eat well, eat lean proteins and vegetables and that kind of thing, and carbohydrates. Eat often, because our brains can't really store energy, so they need a constant flow of good food.
That's
So-
the easy part, eating often, right?
Well, not too much though. You know,
Okay.
eat like small meals every 3 hours, something like that is a
All
good
right.
idea. Get a lot of sleep, as you say, because they've proven from studies that your energy level is related often to your sleep. And then exercise, and this is interesting, the reason why it's important, if your muscles are toned, they act more efficiently, they don't need as much energy from the mitochondria to do what they need to do.
Oh, that's
So
very
all these good reasons sort of give some background to all these sort of common things we always are hearing. So
Yeah,
that's-
you hear it across the board.
so I wanted to mention for those who are on Medicare, if you have a
Yes.
Medicare Advantage plan, that's like the HMO for Medicare, you have until the end of March 31st, to switch plans or leave that whole Medicare Advantage plan and go back to straight Medicare if you like. It's been extended. This is a new thing. Normally would have been expired by now, but they've extended it to the end of March, so I wanted to make sure people were aware of that.
That's great.
Saving some money, how about talking about that? So,
I always like saving money.
all right. So people are cutting the cords to their cable, right? And they're getting shows
yeah,
from
they're watching
Netflix and Hulu
Netflix
and all kinds of things. What do you do about the local stations, the regular network stations?
Does
you gotta-
anyone watch those
we
anymore?
gotta watch
well,
those.
that's a good question. Some people like to watch the news. There are
Yes.
things people like, right? So you can get an antenna, which may or may not give you good reception, only good for your TV. But there's a new service that just came to Washington and Baltimore this month. It's called Locast, LOCAST.org, I think, or maybe .com, one or the other. And it's a free service that enables you to get TV shows on your computer, on your phone, and through your phone, streaming to your television set. Completely free.
Oh, that's
It's a
great.
nonprofit. It's taking the signals that are available in the air and making them available in a high fidelity way for people at no cost. So that was
That's
very
awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
How about, I know the Beacon always has really good articles about travel. I like to travel, so what can you tell me about that?
Well, I'll start with saying our lead travel article is about Oregon and Mount Hood, that kind of beautiful place to visit. But what I want to talk about is how do you save money when you travel. You might use your airline miles to get you to a place, but once you get there, you got the hotel bills and all the expensive places where to stay.
Food, the wine.
Right, and there's Airbnb, but Airbnb isn't that necessarily cheap either, depending on where you stay. So there is a story about other options. So there's couch surfing, which I don't know how many people really want to do that, but there's a website where you can just find other people who are willing. You want to meet other people from different countries. So they say, I have a sofa bed, I have an extra bedroom. Come and stay at no charge for a couple days, and we'll get to know each other, and we'll show you around the town. It's couch surfing.
Cool.
There's house exchanges where you give up your house for a week or two, and someone from another country comes and stays in your house, and you stay in their house. And there's house sitting. There's a website called Trusted House Sitters where you can find people all over the world who want somebody to watch their house while they're away. They don't charge you anything, and you may have to feed the pet, or you may have to bring in the mail or whatever, but a few chores. But otherwise, it's almost free. So there are very nice options out there. for
Those
people
are
to save
really
money.
interesting
Yeah.
options, because you may be able to explore places that typically you wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So
And a
be
friend-
open-minded when you do that.
So where are you
Yeah.
going next?
That's a
Yeah.
good question. Well, actually, I'm going to Israel next. We're going for Passover to Israel. Our daughter lives there now, so
Oh, that's
that's a
incredible.
big trip for us. Yeah, so we'll stay with her, as a matter of fact.
All right. That's the
Is that
cheapest
part of
way.
That's another way to do it.
I know, I was gonna say, you're gonna be on the couch.
Kids
My
serving,
favorite-
parents
my
serving,
favorite,
right?
that's cheapest way.
Exactly, right.
So we got about, I don't know, 40 minutes to 40 seconds left. Anything else that we should know about the
well-
March Beacon?
Well, I just say you can pick it up in any library, any senior center, any recreation department, and also lots of doctors' offices and churches and synagogues and whatnot. So if someone doesn't know where to pick it up, give us a call and we can tell you where you find the local
For
sign.
the house sitting thing, is there
Yeah.
any kind of screening? You were saying become
Well,
a
that's a
trusted
good question.
house
You,
sitter?
you,
What
you,
do
you
what-
have to put some information about yourself in there, and they put information as well. Then you have to do some research. You want to find, they want to have references. You want to check the references. You want to make sure they're not just going blind. You absolutely, that was a good point to make that I left out.
Yeah.
So that's good.
Yeah, I don't think I want to invite my burglar to come and stay with me. And
Do my
then-
house sitting right
Yeah.
now. Clean out the house for me while I'm away. Right?
It's always a concern.
Right.
Well, that's really good to know, and thank you so much, and I hope you'll come back.
Thank you.
So thank you all for joining me this week, and thank you for joining all of us this week's edition of Montgomery Week in Review. I am Mariana Cordier. Please join us next week at this same time.
No, no.